Guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. Science agrees women will never be happy. If you haven't seen the news recently, there's a whole lot of inside as Daily Mail says, inside the twisted minds of these educators that are all of a sudden deciding they need to be with very inappropriately aged young men. Why? A lot of them are pretty. A lot of them are married. A lot of them have families. It's because they need the butterflies and the tingles, and they need something exciting going on. We made a mistake a long time ago, and that was society told women, you can have whatever you want, you can do whatever you want, you can be whatever you want. And then women decided to do whatever they wanted. And there's several studies showing that women's happiness is falling off a cliff. And the amount of self-medication women doing are exponentially rising, whether it be with wine or medicine or anything else. And primarily it's the leftist women. So we're going to read down about how all the ability to do anything for a woman is making them basically go crazy. My other video is kind of the same thing, which is a husband treated her wife very well, or he treated his wife very well, and she decided, I'm enjoying life too much. I need to turn him into a feminist and ruin him. So that'll be my second video for the day. Also, don't forget tonight, Saturday night at the movies. Today is Saturday as I post these videos, at least here in the United States. Tonight we're going to be watching Heat and Boogie Nights. That's where I put on a couple of movies. I slap on some subtitles, and then I read your comments. I read your live tips or super chats is what they'd be here over on YouTube. And we talk about current events. We share memes, and usually I end up getting very blasted. So it's a very fun night, so make sure to hop over and check it out. It's going to be for supporters only. It's $5 a month, not a whole lot of money to become a member of the community. So from Science Direct, this is an actual study that's been published. The agony of partner choice, the effect of excessive partner availability on fear of being single, self-esteem, and partner choice overload. Now, obviously, they're not talking about men here, because the men at the top of the rung that are getting all the attention and having all the fun, they're not worried about being alone, because usually they're men. Now, some of them may have some issues they need to work through. They certainly don't need any help in self-esteem, because they're Chad Chattington. And partner choice overload, men are perfectly happy sleeping with a different woman every night of the week. They say the abstract, dating apps advertise with high availability of potential partners because users seem to prefer extended choice. However, on the basis of consumer decision-making research, we theorize that such excessive choice could have adverse effects specifically on fear of being single, self-esteem, and partner choice overload. In Study 1, a survey with 667 adults between 18 and 67, dating app use was associated with an increased perception that the number of potential partners is numerous, which in turn predicted higher fear of being single. In Study 2, we replicated these positive effects of partner availability on fear of being single in an experimental design with 248 adults between 18 and 38. We experimentally induced low, moderate, or high partner availability by assigning 11, 31, or 91 dating app profiles of allegedly available potential partners to participating high compared to low partner availability, increased fear of being single, decreased participants' self-esteem, and increased partner choice overload. Findings demonstrate pitfalls of excessive swiping on dating apps and extended choice overload, literature by revealing effects on novel outcomes. So, look at women right now today. They're told they can go to college, they can have any job, they deserve any job, they can have any salary, they can have any man, they can have all the things that they want. And the problem is, as that happens, they run into this situation where nothing is good enough for them. Everything is not working for them. You know, oftentimes you see something like this. Now, this is from a Twitter user named Degeneracy. underscore watch, and you can see his logo there in the middle of this cartoon. So I do want to give him credit for me using his picture here. I think he's the original artist. And in here, for those of you just listening, there's a guy on a date with a woman, and it's the same guy and it's the same woman. And you can see her, she's laying in bed, and she says Mike was better in bed. They're driving somewhere, and she thinks Josh had a Porsche. They're out to dinner, and she's thinking Paul took me to Dorsia, which is a restaurant name, I guess. And then they're having a lunch somewhere, and finally the guy's very unhappy. And it says Peter was 6'1", and you can see she's not happy through any of this. I've talked about this many, many, many times, that once women start racking up bodies and start going on so many dates and start having so many choices for them, at no point will they actually settle down and be happy. They can't, because there's always something in the back of their mind saying, I can do better. That's hypergamy. That's hypergamy 101. Monkey branching, we also used to call it, which is a woman's hanging on one branch and she looks higher in the tree and she sees another branch that's a little higher up and she swings up to it. The problem is that when there's so many branches, that Mike is better here and Josh is better here and Paul is better here and Peter's better here, she gets confused, and so she ends up all her life swinging from branch to branch like an unhappy monkey searching for the perfect banana. And they're saying that this is an actual thing. The same thing's happening in the work world. Look at these young ladies that demanded to go to college, and I want to be able to get a degree, and I want to be able to do anything. Well, you see them doing these TikToks where, the life and the day in the life of my perfect job, and they've gone for underwater gender study basket weaving, and now they've got a job at a company, and that company just laid them off because tough times are a-coming financially. And now they're crying because, and I don't have any of the videos here today, but I've posted them previously where the women are crying because they can't even get a job serving coffee because their degree is worthless and they have no life experience. So these are various ways where women have been told you can have anything and do anything and be all the things that you want, and then they end up unhappy. And that's why they end up, if you look at most of the protests going on in the world today, of a large percentage of it is women. Same thing with the faculty at these colleges. Same thing with the people going out to protest various things. It's almost always women because they don't have anything in their life that makes them happy. They have nothing better to do with their lives. So they end up finding another cause to fight for, and then another and another. Bravo Lima Mike, right? The BLM. That was a huge thing. And then, we're done with that. And then it was all about women's equality and something else. Well, you won there. Well, now what about this and what about that? And it's always something new to complain about. They say modern dating applications advertise with unlocking an abundance of potentially available romantic partners outside of people's pre-existing networks. Tinder, for example, claims to process 1 billion swipes per day. For this reason, dating apps have been praised for advancing sexual liberation and making it easier to find romance or sexual relationships. Before the advent of dating apps, it was impossible to meet or see such high numbers of potential partners in one day. However, dating apps are an environment of excessive options and might induce choice overload. And then, by the way, as I'm reading here, they have links to all the various studies that they're referencing. Some of these going all the way back to 2008. They say similar cognitive information overload choice overloads denotes adverse outcomes of excessive choice, such as decreased choice satisfaction. Reasons are that excessive partnering options increase the perceived risk of a wrong decision and are difficult to process. Thereby, more options might lead to less favorable outcomes, hence the idiom, the agony of choice. I've talked about this before where there was a study done where participants did something, and it was very simple. It was very quick. And at the end of it, they were given a T-shirt, just given a white T-shirt or a blue T-shirt. And they said, thanks for participating. And it was a pretty nice T-shirt. People were relatively happy. Then they did it again and gave them the choice of 2 T-shirts and then 4 T-shirts and then 6 and 8. And then they gave them a rainbow of colors to choose from when it came to the T-shirts. At the end, they asked people, how do you feel about the t-shirt? And when the next question came up, how do you feel about the color of the t-shirt? Do you wish you made a different choice? Are you happy with your choice? The more t-shirts that people had to choose from, the less likely they were to be happy. This is one of the reasons why many people state that an assigned marriage, which is, mother and father pick out the person for that person to date, why they're so successful. And in the past, this did work relatively well. It was, this is going to be your bride, do with it what you will, and the two people did their best to make it work. But now with divorce being so popular, now with people wanting to sleep around and have their fun before marriage, and with the advent of social media and the internet, that's not working out quite as well anymore, because people may get assigned that mate, but then when they jump online, they see all the other options they think they're missing out on. This is a real struggle, and especially for women, because most of the time in the dating apps and in the dating world, men fall into two categories. The first category, they have no problems getting laid. They have no problems getting dates. Maybe they're not, overburdened with choices, but guys are out there having a lot of fun and having a good time. And so they have nothing to complain about. These, we jokingly call Chads, right? The other group of guys are the guys that maybe only get a few matches, maybe very rarely get a match. Occasionally they'll get a date every couple of months. Maybe they have a little bit of luck. But they can't be picky at all because they don't have many choices. They've got a few. And a lot of times for those guys, when they've gone on a few dates, it's a lot easier for them to pick a woman and say, I could date her. Like, it's not perfect. I guess I'm all right here. This will work for me. And then you've got the guys that don't get anything. And those are the guys that would say, I just want a girlfriend. I just want someone that I think is pretty and nice and I can care for. I'd be happy with just a woman. And they have virtually no choice. And so because women have all these choices, they're getting blown out of the water. They're going crazy with it. They say at the same time, the perception that there is an abundance of potential partners available may increase the pressure that one has to find the perfect relationship and leaves no excuse for failing. Thus, the concern of having no success in dating may be a greater under seemingly optical conditions of partner abundance. Let me make sure I read that right. Thus, the concern of having no success in dating may be greater under seemingly optical conditions of partner abundance. Sorry, for me to read this out loud versus reading it on the page, there's punctuation missing, and so I may be doing some bleed-on sentences. I apologize for that. They say the concern, anxiety, or distress regarding the current or prospective experience of being without a romantic partner is termed fear of being single. Counterintuitively, excess partnering options on dating apps may increase people's fear of being single. When we watch a lot of these videos that I pull from TikTok and other things of interviewers going around and asking women, like, what's the worst thing you ever did to the boyfriend, or have you ever cheated? Or some of the women are like, yep, I slept with him and two of his best friends. Or like, are you single? Well, no, we're in a situationship. There's always something going on. It's because for many young people today, I think, and even some people that are older in the dating pool, there's a thing of where they say there's so many choices out there that if I can't find anything I like, something is wrong with me. So they will keep making attempts. I goof all the time on Yana Hawking, the dating guru of Australia that basically just keeps betting guys and running around writing stories of all her exploits. But many times she'll say, I need to be single. Like, I'm burnt out. I've had a crazy summer. Maybe the fix for me is to be single. And then 3 weeks later, she's writing another article about a date she had where there's just this constant turnover of people because they think I need to be able to find somebody that will align. And if I can't, maybe there's something wrong with me. And that in and of itself is a problem. A lot of women do not want to reflect internally and say, hey, is there something wrong with me? Now, guys need to do the same thing. But the difference for men, it doesn't really relate to this because it's not overabundance. Not many guys are getting so overwhelmed with choices and they can't find the perfect girl that they have to look at themselves in a mirror. Usually what men are doing is they're getting so few choices and so few opportunities that's when they look in the mirror and say, maybe I need to get into shape or start working out, or I need to make more money or have a flashier watch or something that'll make me stand out. And then they look at, other red pill like dating pickup content and hoping for a change for that. But that's the opposite of this. That's not having any choices or any opportunity. And I would say, so insofar as this is probably worse than the guys that don't have any opportunity. Because the guys that don't have any opportunity, if you only get a couple of swings at a woman or a date and you mess it up, you'll learn from it and you'll keep trying, and eventually maybe you'll score that date and you'll be happy that you scored a date. And maybe if she's nice and funny and you find her attractive and you want to see her with her top off, you might have a winner. Where women will overwhelmingly do this again and again and again, and at the end of the day, they're getting older. I once said this was a Saw movie. If you guys have ever seen the Saw movie, and when I mentioned this last time, and many of you corrected me that it's a different movie, but it was a woman that, and maybe I'm mixing things up a little bit, but either way, I think this is a pretty accurate description, is that women as they age lose value to men. Men don't really care if she's super smart or has a ton of money because he doesn't have access to that. What she cares about is she's young, she's fertile, she's perky, she's pretty, and she likes the bedroom fun. That's really where most men's line of thought finishes. But as she ages, her value goes down. And so the way I like to look at this is take a steak fresh off the grill, a nice 1.5 to 2 inch thick steak, like a filet mignon. You take that off the steak, or take that off the grill, put it on the plate, and serve it to somebody. It's the best it's ever going to get. That's as best as it's ever going to be. That's a young gal at 18, 19, 20, 21, somewhere in her formative years where she's old enough to be an adult, make adult decisions, do adult things. She's got kind of her personality developed a little bit, and she's ready to enter the world. That's that fresh steak. And what happens is women then start playing the game, trying to decide which guy's right for me. Well, he snores in his sleep. This guy's not hung as well. This guy doesn't have as nice a car. This guy doesn't make as much money. This guy, and they start doing the comparison. And over time, they get unhappy. They get more and more unhappy. And ironically, they get sitting on that plate instead of being fresh off the grill by the time the woman's 30, 32, 34, 36. Now she's cold and the fat is all congealed on the outside of it. Maybe flies have been landing on it, right? That her value has gone down, but now it's even more difficult for her to make the decision. And in the end, what they end up doing is they say it's the epiphany phase, where women say, you know what, I'm not so hot anymore. The hot guys aren't paying attention to me. The guys I want to sleep with, the guys I want to be with, they're not paying attention to me anymore. But I don't want to be alone for the rest of my life. I don't want to work for the rest of my life. So I need to do something to fix this. And they settle on a beta male. They settle on the blue pill guy who's not too bad. She gives him boring missionary twice a week. And he pays the bills and provides for her. And that's where you end up with this gal. The forever alone woman. She's found a guy. And, the other story that I'm doing today is literally about a woman that says, my husband treated me like a queen and it made me miserable. Why did it make her miserable? Because there's no butterflies. He valued her a lot. And so she said, well, maybe he's not that valuable. Like if he could love me with all my damage and all my issues, maybe he's not that high a value. Maybe I need to find a guy that wouldn't love me and I have to chase after him and I have to play hard to get. And maybe that guy's high value. Because a person that is easy, anything that is easy to acquire has no value. Anything that is difficult to acquire does. And so these women are going through this again and again and again until they're the old, cold steak on the plate that the flies have been over and no one wants anymore. They say in this context, experimental studies using dating app paradigms have confirmed that when presented with a large set of dating app profiles, individuals reject more options, are less satisfied with their choices and reverse them more than when exposed to smaller sets. So women, when presented with large set of dating app profiles, they reject more of the options. They're less satisfied with their choices. And what's it mean to reverse the choice? Well, that means you sleep with them, go on a couple of dates with them, and you say, you know what, I've got better options, or I'm going to keep looking. And they ghost you, or they ditch, or they bounce. This happens all the time. How many times have you guys said, like, I don't know, we went on 2-3 dates, we had a good time, and then, like, poof, she just unmatched me or didn't respond to me anymore. I didn't even do anything. And then ironically, the guy starts questioning himself, like, did I say something weird during the dinner date? Maybe I wasn't so good in bed, whatever. No, it's just she decided to roll the dice again and again and again. It's like gambling, except having an addiction for it. They say, we lack evidence on the effects of partner abundance on fear of being single. This seems especially important because people may turn to dating apps out of fear of being single. Fear of being single is more predictive of well-being than factual relationship status, and longitudinally identifies individuals who cannot endure being alone. It is, however, unclear how partner availability influences fear of being single. To address this gap, we first conducted a survey in a large quota-based sample to see if dating app use was associated with higher perceived partner availability, which might in turn be related to increased fear of being single. Due to the cross-selection design, we then conducted an experimental study to test the effects of induced partner availability on fear of being single. We also looked at the effects of state on self-esteem and perceived partner choice overload. State self-esteem was investigated as an outcome of excessive partner availability because we theorized that swiping through an excessive number of profiles would evoke an assessment mode, which decreases self-esteem. In addition, we examined perceived partner choice overload to understand how many profiles are too many to process. Since highly selective individuals with high standards for a potential partner prefer more choices, we also investigated the moderating role of selectivity in mate preferences. Now, there was a video on YouTube that I did, a video on this, and it was a couple of years ago. So this was a video that I did. But what they did is they had 20 participants in a room, 10 female, 10 male, and each of them had a number on their forehead from 1 to 10. And that was their quote-unquote desirability. And what they did is they had these couples mingle and talk to each other. Now, nobody knew their own number, just like we don't know how the opposite sex would find us attractive. Like if you're just plopped in a room and you've never interacted with anybody else and somebody said, do women find you attractive? Men would say, I have no idea. I've never interacted with a woman, right? So nobody knows their own numbers, and they plop the men and the women. And what they noticed is everybody went to the 10s and the 9s and the 8s. So if you're a guy and you've got a 10 on your forehead, and all of a sudden all the women start coming to you and talking to you and start showing interest in you, you know you're an 8, 9, or 10 to women. That's that number on their forehead. And so that gives you an idea of, okay, everybody wants to be with me. So I'm weeding out everybody, except I see a woman with a 10 or a 9 or an 8 on her forehead. So I do want to be with her, but so do all the other men. So just like the women going to the men, all the men flocked to the women that had the 10, the 9, and the 8 on their forehead. And the women quickly realized, oh, I'm valuable. I've got a big number on my forehead. I do not want to be with lower number men. And so then at the end of this study, after everybody milled about and talked and kind of, tried to shoot their shots and get their best opportunity they could, when he showed the partnering at the end, when time was up, you'd see 10s with 9s, 9s with 10s, 9s with 8s, 8s with 9s, 8s with 7s, 7s with 6s, 6s with 7s, 6s with 5s. Everybody was in a digit, almost exclusively one single digit of where they were. So a 7 might end up with a 6, and the 6 might end up with a 7, but they knew that was the best they were going to get. And that's natural selection. That's how dating is supposed to work in the real world. A man might be a 5 in the looks department, but he's a 10 in income, or he's a 10 in intelligence, or 10 in being funny and interesting. And so it's an average of all those things. So maybe the 5 guy with a 10 intelligence and 10 income and 10 personality, maybe he would get a 7 or an 8. And she might be a 10 or an 8 in the looks, but maybe she's not very comfortable socially. She doesn't have much income. Maybe she's a little overweight. All those things naturally adjust until people come together. But now today, because of the way the dating apps work, women will see a guy that's a 5 that's a doctor, and she'll see a 9 in looks and muscles and attractiveness. And she sees all these different choices. And so what she does is she says, I'm not ready to settle down right now. I don't care about a man's income or his potential future or how he's going to be with kids, because I'm not in that phase of my life right now. And so I'm going to keep chasing after 8, 9s, and 10s, and I'm going to sleep with them, and I'm going to go to dinner with them, and I'm going to have a good time with them, and everything is going to be wonderful. And that's fine. Hey, look, if guys could go out and sleep with supermodels all day, they would too. But men can't. Because for men to get a supermodel, they have to have the money, and they have to have the looks, and they have to have the muscles. They have to have all the things just to get, because a woman knows her value is primarily her looks. And so at the end of the day, a woman goes from, gosh knows, 18, 19, 20, coming out of high school and into college, all the way through her college years, oftentimes getting into the work world, going out to pubs and to the gym and to whatever. She gets all this attention from men. And these are men she sleeps with and has a good time with and then enjoys herself, not realizing that her number is slowly ticking down, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, because of her looks, because of her age. And then as when women start to say, well, I'm now in pairing mode, I'm in bonding mode now, and now I want to find a husband, she could flip a switch and say, now I want the provider, now I want the doctor, I want the guy that's got a good personality, and I want the guy that's going to be a good husband. And many of them do. But because they've slept with the 8s and the 9s and the 10s for so long, that's the guy that they're attracted to when it comes to being physical. So she's attracted to the guy that will pay for things and be the good dad and be wonderful for the kids and all these other things, but she's still attracted to sleeping with the other guy because she sampled that. And in the end, because of this, women can't be happy. They cannot if they participate in this lifestyle. Now, a gal that's, 18, 19, 20, 21, she gets out of high school. When she gets into college, she finds a great guy. They both talk to each other and make sure that it's not just a fling. We want to be serious about this, and maybe there's some religion or other values that back this choice up. And they get together, they have a much better odds or much better chances of everything working out for them, because that she's taking her value, which is, her chastity and her youth and her beauty and maybe her personality and her looks, and she's tying that to the best guy she can get. The thing is, no, she won't be sleeping with 8s, 9s, and 10s. If she's a 7, she'll end up with a guy that's a 6 or an 8, somewhere around there, because they use natural selection. See, so the way that it's working now is if women participate in this stuff, they're not going to be happy. And science is proving it. And to move on to this next topic, okay, I will watch my wording because I do want this to go on YouTube. But there's a bunch of educators that are women, and they're partnering with young men that are under the age of 18, okay? And if you look at this, you're going to look at some of them and say, oop, there's some older ones. But you look at some of these women on here, like women photo number, because this woman's quite a bit older as this one. But if you look at this woman, if you saw her in a dating app, you'd probably take her on a date. Same thing with this one. Same thing with this one. Same thing with this. These women are in dating age. These women could be on a dating app finding suitable people. What the heck is going on? This is this gal right here, 26-year-old Missouri math teacher, and she was inappropriately with one of the kids in her class. Same thing with this gal, and she was married. Now, for you guys on YouTube, I'm not going to read through this. For Rumble and for locals, I am going to read through this, but I do want to point this out that these women are not bottom of the barrel, when it comes to finding someone to date, someone to be with. Like, why are they doing this? Because they've burnt out so many receptors, I bet, on sleeping around and having fun and dating men. They've burnt out so many receptors that they've broken themselves. They've fried themselves out. So for you guys on YouTube, I'm going to leave it there. Make sure to, again, jump over to betterbachelor.locals.com. Great movie night tonight. I do this every Saturday night of the month. We share memes, and like I said, I put on a couple movies. I've got the subtitles in the background, so if I'm talking or reading live tips or whatever, you guys can still follow along with the movies. We have a great time, knocking back a couple of drinks, sharing awful memes and horrible pictures and all the other things that men do when they're left to their own devices. So I hope you come over and join us there today.